Now, Senator Hirono.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've listened to my Republican colleagues question the first panel, and yes, they are attempting to minimize the very real attacks on the integrity of our elections and the threats and harassment of election workers, causing, I would say, probably thousands of them to say, forget it, I am not volunteering. Basically, that's what it is, volunteering to be an election worker and be exposed to these kinds of attacks. So basically, the MAGA Republicans have weaponized the position of election workers by supporting, to the extent these officials are elected, by supporting election officials who believe in the big lie and other conspiracy theories. And let us not forget that it is a big lie that led to a violent insurrection on January 6th, which, by the way, did not just happen spontaneously. We can see by the work of the House January 6th committee that the planning for this insurrection have been going on for quite a while. And so we have the violent insurrection of January 6th with the big lie and the former president impelling them. And then we have the dozens of voter suppression bills, laws that have been enacted by Republican legislatures all across the country. And the fact that Congress has not been able to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act or do other things that will actually protect the integrity of our elections. And we have a Supreme Court. Let's not forget our Supreme Court that has made it even tougher to enable the Department of Justice to prosecute some of these more obvious voter suppression laws under what is left of the Voting Rights Act, because this Supreme Court has basically created even more ways that these kinds of voter suppression laws can be held constitutional. So we are in an environment where, yes, our democracy is at stake. And here we are focusing on election integrity, and we're listening to our colleagues talk about how important it is to go after violent crime. Yes, it is, yeah. And how about going after the massive gun violence in our country? How about focusing on some of that, but we're not. But in the meantime, I want to thank all of you who have testified today who are election workers, secretaries of New Mexico and Michigan. When I was the lieutenant governor of the state of Hawaii, we did not have a secretary of state. The lieutenant governor was the elections person. And one of the first things I did, because the lieutenant governor is in an elected position, and I believe the election should be run in a totally nonpartisan way, one of the first things I did as lieutenant governor to eliminate the election functions from the office of lieutenant governor, and we created an office of elections. After every election prior to this action being taken by the state legislature in removing the election function from, at that point, my office, after every election, the lieutenant governor would be sued. And these suits never got anywhere, but because it was done by an elected person, then there are always those who thought that the outcomes could be challenged as somehow being tainted by political considerations. So I commend all of you for putting yourself forward. And in fact, I'd like to ask the Secretary Benson, why did you decide to become Secretary of State in as Michigan's chief election officer with everything that's going on around elections?
Thank you for that question, Senator. I'm here today wearing a bracelet of the Edmund Pettus Bridge. I wear it with me all the time to remind me of the sacrifices made so that we could live in a democracy where the one person, one vote promise in our Constitution is a reality for everyone. I started my career in Alabama working to investigate hate groups and hate crimes throughout the country and came to the conclusion that the only way we could ensure that every voice was heard in our country is to have a democracy that is led by people who are dedicated to making that promise true for everyone. State secretaries of state live that every day. We serve as guardians of the democratic process. Whether we be Democrat, Republican, or independent, we make decisions daily that are geared towards increasing the security of our process and the accessibility of it. So that's why I wanted this job, and you'll find that my story is not that different from my colleague in New Mexico, who similarly was an election administrator who simply wanted to do her job to make sure elections are safe and secure for all, and the tens of thousands of election workers around the country can share that story. And so I'm proud to stand among these individuals, many of whom on the local level face threats without security details and other protections, but they are the true heroes of our democracy.
Thank you. And I also commend the Secretary of the Elections in New Mexico. Thank you. I'm out of time, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Senator Hirono. Senator Klobuchar.